I never thought a single afternoon could break me, but that day did. When I pushed open the door to the apartment Lena and I shared, I expected the usual soft smile, the familiar "You're home, Ethan." Instead, I heard whispers, low, sharp, secret. I froze before stepping in, my name hanging on my lips. "Lena?" I called. My voice echoed back, thin and unsure. "I told you he wouldn't notice," Daniel whispered. His tone made my stomach twist. Lena laughed, and it felt like glass rubbing against my chest. "Ethan never notices anything. He trusts too much. He always has." I stepped inside, and both of them jerked in surprise. "What are you talking about?" I asked, though the answer was already crawling into my bones. Daniel smirked. "Wow, you're earlier than usual." Lena crossed her arms like she was annoyed I'd interrupted something. "Ethan, this isn't what you think." I walked closer, each step heavier than the last. "Then tell me what it is," I said. "Tell me why you're here alone with him. Tell me why you're whispering about me." Daniel shrugged. "Relax, man. Don't call me that," I snapped. "Just answer me." Lena rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being lied to," I said, my voice cracking. "Just talk to me, Lena." "Why?" Lena let out a slow breath, one that sounded like she had been waiting to say this. "Because you're too soft, Ethan. You're too gentle. Too trusting. I needed someone stronger." Daniel added, "Someone who doesn't break just because life gets tough." My chest tightened. "Is that what you think I am? Weak?" Lena looked away. "I don't know. Maybe." I felt something inside me slip. "So all this time, you were with him?" Daniel stepped forward. "Look, man. Stop calling me that," I said again. "You knew what she meant to me." Lena's voice sharpened. "We didn't plan it. It just happened. That's supposed to make me feel better?" She shook her head like I was the problem. "Ethan, don't make this harder." I stared at her, searching her face for any sign that the girl I loved was still there. "I gave you everything I had," I whispered. "Exactly," she said coldly. "And it still wasn't enough." Her words stabbed deeper than anything she had done. "Not enough," I repeated, barely breathing. "After everything. I wasn't enough." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, and I felt my heart collapse in on itself. "You'll be fine," he said. "You're good at pretending nothing hurts." I laughed, bitter and broken. "You really think I'll just walk away and forget this?" Lena crossed her arms. "What else are you going to do?" For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat burned, my hands shook, and the room felt too small for all the pain inside me. "I don't know," I finally said. "But I can't stay here." Daniel smirked like he had won something. "See? I told you he'd leave." I looked at Lena one last time. "I loved you," I said. "I hope you remember that when all of this falls apart." She didn't reply. She didn't even look at me. So I turned and walked out the door, my chest feeling hollow, my mind spinning. My footsteps echoed down the hallway, and with every step, I felt the pieces of my old life falling away. By the time I reached the street, I realized something terrifying. I no longer knew who I was. I walked aimlessly into the fading light, unsure whether anything inside me could ever feel whole again today that I stepped out of the apartment, but I didn't go far. I stopped in the hallway, shaking, trying to breathe. The door behind me stayed open a crack, just enough for their voices to slip through. Daniel laughed first, sharp and cruel. "I told you," he said. "He's a joke." Lena giggled like none of this mattered. "Yeah," she said, "Ethan never had anything going for him." I pressed my back against the wall, feeling my breath break apart. "He really thought I loved him," Lena said, her voice soft like pity. Daniel scoffed. "You only stayed with him until you found someone better, right?" "Of course," she answered. "Why else would I waste time on him?" The words stabbed deeper than anything they had said earlier. I felt my hands trembling as I whispered to myself, "So this is who they really are." They kept talking like I wasn't even a person anymore. "He was useful," Daniel said. "He just didn't know his place." Lena sighed. "He'll cry for a while, then he'll move on. He always does." I wanted to scream, break something, or storm back into the room. But all I could do was stand there. My chest hurt so much it felt like someone was pulling it apart from the inside. I whispered, "Was I really that blind?" The hallway felt colder than usual, like the walls themselves wanted me gone. Daniel spoke again. "Don't worry, Lena. He won't fight back. He never does. Lena said, he's too gentle for that. Too soft. Too boring. I clenched my fists, feeling something inside me twist, something raw and angry. I never heard them talk like this before, and every word cut deeper. I wanted to step in and demand answers, but what was left to ask? They already said everything that mattered. Their laughter rose again, echoing through the hallway and hitting me like knives. I whispered, I trusted both of you. But they didn't stop laughing. They didn't feel even a drop of guilt. Maybe they never had. I felt something shift inside me, something small, sharp, almost cold. It wasn't strength yet, but it wasn't weakness either. It felt like the start of a break, the moment before a person changes forever. I whispered, I have nothing left to lose now. The thought scared me, but it also felt true. My legs finally moved again, and I stepped away from the door. I didn't look back. I didn't want to hear anything else. Their voices still echoed in my head anyway. I walked down the hallway slowly, feeling like each step was tearing something out of me. My breathing was uneven, but I forced myself forward. I said under my breath, I won't collapse. Not this time. My voice shook, but I kept walking. The pain stayed, sharp and real, but a strange focus formed under it. I didn't know what I would become after this, but I knew one thing, I couldn't go back to who I was before. I stepped into the cold air and exhaled. By the time I reached Mason Reed's apartment, my legs felt like they were about to give out. I knocked once, then twice, and when he opened the door, he stared at me like he didn't recognize me for a second. Ethan? What happened? You look destroyed. I swallowed hard. Can I come in? Of course, he said, pulling me inside. Sit. Talk to me. I collapsed onto his couch, my chest tight. Mason, it's bad. It's really bad. He sat across from me, eyes steady. Tell me. I tried to speak, but the words choked out. Lena. Daniel, they. Mason didn't move. He just waited. They were together, I finally said. Not just today. For months. And when I walked in, they didn't even look guilty. Mason let out a slow exhale. Tell me exactly what they said. I leaned forward, shaking. Lena said I'm too soft. Daniel said I'm a joke. They both laughed at me like I was nothing. Mason muttered, unbelievable, then looked at me again. And what did you do? I left, I said. But I heard more. They talked about me like I was some tool they were done with. Mason's jaw tightened. Ethan. I'm so sorry. I covered my face with my hands. I don't know what hurts more, the betrayal or the way they talked about me. He moved closer. Listen to me. You gave too much, man. You always do. You love with your whole heart, and people like them don't know what to do with that. I shook my head. I should have seen it. I should have known. No, he said firmly. Don't do that. This isn't your fault. Lena chose this. Daniel chose this. That has nothing to do with you. My voice cracked. I feel stupid. You're not stupid, he said. You trusted the wrong people. That happens. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling as tears slid down my face. I thought she loved me, Mason. He sat beside me. I know. And she should have appreciated you. She didn't. My chest tightened again. I don't know what to do now. Mason answered without hesitation. You breathe. You rest. You come back to yourself. You don't need people like Lena or Daniel poisoning your life. I let out a shaky breath. Everything hurts. Of course it does, he said. You were betrayed by the two people who should have had your back. Anyone would break. I wiped my face, forcing the tears away. I don't want this pain to define me. Mason nodded. Good. Because it won't if you don't let it. I looked at him. But how do I even start? By not going back there, he said. By staying here tonight. By letting yourself feel it, then letting it push you forward. I closed my eyes. Forward. I want that. Then promise me something, Mason said. Promise you won't let this version of you, the heartbroken one, be the final version. I hesitated, then nodded. I promise. I won't stay the man they broke. I won't. Mason placed a hand on my shoulder. Good. Because you're worth more than what they gave you. For the first time that night, I felt a thin breath of air inside my chest, painful, but real. And I held on to it that I walked for hours with no destination. The streets looked blurry, like the city itself didn't want to face me. I muttered to myself, how could I not see it? My voice cracked, and I rubbed my face. Was I really that blind? A stranger passing by glanced at me. I heard him whisper, "Rough night." I forced a smile and said, something like that. He kept walking while I stood there feeling like my life no longer belonged to me. I leaned against a wall and whispered, why did I let them treat me like that? My chest tightened again. Why didn't I walk away sooner? I pushed off the wall and kept moving, trying to drown my thoughts in the noise around me. The city felt cold. Cars rushed by. A couple laughed across the street. Their happiness stabbed me harder than anything. Lucky them, I whispered. They don't know what it feels like to lose everything in one day. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't want to look, but I did. Mason had texted, "You good? Want me to come find you?" I typed back, "I just need to walk." Then, after a moment, "I'll figure it out." He replied fast, "Call me if you can't." "I won't," I whispered to the night. "I can't keep depending on someone to drag me out of my own mess." My mind argued with itself as I crossed another street. "You're a fool," one voice said. "You trusted the wrong people." Another voice whispered, "You loved them. That's not a sin." But the first voice hit harder, "Yeah, but look where that love got you." I stopped under a street light and stared at my shaking hands. "I'm tired of breaking," I said. "I'm tired of being the one left behind." I don't know how long I stayed there, but eventually the anger inside me started changing. It wasn't loud anymore. It wasn't wild. It became something deeper, something steady. I whispered, "I deserve better than this. I really do." Hearing my own voice say that made something shift. I felt a strange calm wash over me, the kind you only feel when you finally hit the bottom and can't fall any further. By the time the sky started to lighten, I felt different. Not healed. Not strong. But awake. "I'm not staying here," I said. "Not in this version of my life." I breathed out slowly. I'm done letting them decide who I am. I pulled out my phone one more time. My thumb hovered over Lena's name. I didn't want to text her. I didn't want anything from her. But I needed to end it with my own words. I typed slowly, "Don't look for me." My finger hesitated only once before I pressed send. Her reply came almost instantly, "I won't." Just 2 words, but they crushed whatever love was still hiding inside me. I stared at the screen, and my chest felt hollow. I whispered, "That's it, then." I slipped the phone back into my pocket. The sun was rising, painting the buildings gold. For a moment, I just watched it. It felt like a small sign that endings weren't always bad, sometimes they were the start of something else. "I'll disappear," I said softly. "I'll rebuild myself from the ground up. And when I come back," I clenched my jaw. "No one will recognize me." The morning breeze brushed against my face. I closed my eyes and breathed in. Everything inside me hurt, but for the first time since the betrayal, I felt the pain pushing me forward instead of breaking me. "I'm done being weak," I whispered. "I choose who I become next." And with that choice, my old self died quietly in the morning light. I reached my apartment just as the sky turned pale. The door felt heavier than usual when I pushed it open. Everything inside looked the same, but nothing felt the same. I whispered, "I can't stay here anymore." My voice echoed in the empty living room. I grabbed a small bag from the closet and threw in clothes, a few documents, and the watch my father gave me. As I zipped it, someone banged on my door. "Ethan. Open up." Mason's voice boomed. I opened the door, surprised. "How did you get here so fast?" He walked in without waiting. "You told me you were walking all night. I knew you'd come back here sooner or later." I sighed, setting my bag down. "Mason, I appreciate you, but I'm leaving." His eyes widened. "Leaving where?" "I don't know yet," I said. "Anywhere that isn't here." He stared at me like he didn't believe it. "You're telling me you're running away?" "I'm not running," I said quietly. "I'm choosing to disappear." "That sounds the same to me," he snapped. I shook my head. "Staying here will kill me. Every street reminds me of her. Every place feels tainted. I need distance. I need time to rebuild myself." Mason stepped closer. "And you think disappearing alone will fix everything?" "No," I whispered. "But staying won't fix anything either." He ran a hand through his hair. "Ethan, you're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking clearly for the first time," I said. "I need to get out of this place before it pulls me back into who I was." Mason looked at me for a long moment. So what, you'll vanish? Just like that? I nodded. Just like that. He pointed at my bag. You packed like you're never coming back. I'm coming back, I said. Just not as the same man. Mason's jaw clenched. I hate this. I hate seeing you like this. I know, I said. But I can't stay broken for anyone. Not even for myself. He dropped onto the couch, sighing heavily. Say something else. Something that proves you're not doing this out of anger. I sat beside him. I'm doing it because I finally understand something. I was living for Lena. And she threw me away like I was nothing. If I stay here, I'll keep trying to be the man she wanted. And I'm done being that man. He was silent for a moment before asking softly, will you ever tell me where you're going? When I figure it out, I said. For now, I just need to disappear long enough to breathe. Mason looked around my apartment. What about all your stuff? I held out a small silver key. I want you to take it. Keep it safe. If anyone asks, tell them you don't know where I went. He stared at the key before taking it slowly. You're really doing this? I have to, I said. We stood up. Mason pulled me into a tight hug. Then promise me you'll come back stronger. I hugged him back. I will. He stepped back, eyes red. At least let me drive you to the station. No, I said softly. I need to walk this last part alone. I picked up my bag and headed for the door. Mason followed me out. At the stairs, he stopped. Ethan, whatever happens, don't let this break you. I nodded. It already did. That's why I'm rebuilding. The morning air hit my face as I walked to the bus stop. When the bus arrived, I climbed aboard and sat by the window. As it pulled away, I looked back at the city, my old life, shrinking behind me. Fear twisted inside me. But freedom felt louder. This is day one, I whispered. Day one of the man I become next. The bus rattled as it moved down the empty highway. I leaned my head against the window, watching the city fade behind me. I whispered, goodbye, and stay gone. My reflection in the glass looked tired, older than I felt. A voice beside me said, you look like someone who just buried his past. I turned. A woman about my age sat there, dark hair tied loosely, eyes sharp like she could see straight through me. Sorry, I said. Didn't realize I was that obvious. She smirked. Most people aren't. But you? You're carrying something heavy. I huffed a weak laugh. You have no idea. Try me, she said. Long rides make me nosy. Name's Ava. Ethan, I replied, shifting in my seat. And trust me, you don't want my story. She leaned back. So you are running. I frowned. Who said I'm running? You did, she said. Your eyes said it before your mouth did. I looked away. Maybe I just needed to leave. Ava tapped the seat in front of her. People leave for two reasons. They're chasing something, or they're escaping something. I sighed. Fine. Maybe I'm escaping. She raised an eyebrow. From someone? Or from yourself? The question hit harder than I expected. I rubbed my forehead. Both, I guess. Sounds messy, she said. You think? I replied, letting out a hollow laugh. Ava waited like she expected more, and for some reason, I didn't want to hold everything inside anymore. I trusted someone, I began. Someone I thought I'd spend my life with. Turns out she was already planning a different future, with someone else. Ava's expression softened. And you caught them? Was, I said. I heard everything they thought of me. She nodded slowly. I get it. Betrayal changes something in you. Makes everything feel unreal. You've been there? I asked. Yeah, she said. Different faces, same story. Someone I loved made a fool out of me. Took me a long time to admit it wasn't my fault. I blinked. You actually believe that? I know that, she corrected. People choose to betray. It's not because you're not enough, it's because they are not. I looked at her for a moment. You talk like you've been broken before. Oh, I shattered, she said casually. But I picked up the pieces one by one. You will too. I laughed weakly. I don't feel like it. No one does at first, she said. But the fact that you left, that means you still care about yourself. I turned back to the window, thinking about her words. I don't know who I am anymore. Then this is the perfect time to build a new version, Ava said. Start from zero. Be someone even you can respect. Her voice stirred something in me. I'm trying, I murmured. I just don't know where to start. Ava crossed her arms. Here's a thought. Stop lying. I frowned. I'm not lying. Yes, you are, she said plainly. You're pretending the pain is smaller than it is. You're acting like walking away fixes everything. It doesn't. So what fixes it? I asked. Facing what hurt you, she said. And facing who you were before it. I swallowed hard. That sounds painful. It is, she said. But rebuilding always hurts. The bus slowed as it approached the next stop. Ava stood, pulling her bag over her shoulder. This is my stop. I looked up at her. Thanks for whatever this was. She smiled faintly. A warning, maybe. Or advice. She paused. If you want to rebuild your life, Ethan, don't lie to yourself first. Then she stepped off the bus. As the doors closed, her words echoed in my mind, louder than the engine, louder than the past I was trying to escape. I whispered, no more lies. And for the first time since everything happened, I felt like I was breathing honestly. I walked through the small town, streets narrow and quiet, the kind of place where everyone seemed to know everyone else. The sunlight felt different here, softer somehow, but it didn't stop the memories from hitting me. Lena laughing with Daniel. The whispering. The way their words had cut straight into me. I muttered, why did I ever trust them? My fists clenched at my sides. Why me? A bell jingled as I pushed open the door to a small cafe. I hadn't meant to go in, it was more like my feet guided me. The smell of coffee and warm bread was oddly comforting. Behind the counter stood a woman with gentle eyes, maybe in her late 20s. Hi, she said. You look like you could use a seat. Or a drink. Or both. I hesitated. Yeah, maybe both, I admitted. She smiled faintly. I'm Clara, she said. Don't worry, I don't pry. But if you need to talk, I can listen. I laughed dryly. Talk? To a stranger? My voice cracked. Sometimes strangers hear more than friends do, she said. Try me. I slid into a chair, bag still on my shoulder. I'm not even sure where to start, I whispered. Everything's broken. Clara leaned on the counter, arms crossed. You don't have to start at the beginning. Start wherever it hurts the most. I swallowed, my chest tight. I trusted someone. Loved someone, and they betrayed me. Not just once. They laughed at me. Behind my back. And the worst part, I loved them anyway. Clara nodded slowly. Pain has a way of teaching us who we are. But it can't define you forever. I stared at my hands. I don't even know who I am anymore, I admitted. I've been running, trying to disappear, thinking distance would help, but it hasn't. Distance gives you perspective, she said softly. It doesn't erase the past. It just gives you space to face it. Her words hit me like a sudden light. I exhaled shakily. Space, yeah. Space to see who I was, and maybe who I could be. Clara moved behind the counter and brought over a cup of coffee. Sometimes talking helps. Sometimes writing helps. Or both. She set the cup down in front of me. I stared at it. I haven't written anything in years. Then maybe today's a good day to start, she said, giving me a small, encouraging smile. I pulled a notebook from my bag, flipping it open to a blank page. My pen hovered over it. Words felt heavy at first, but as I wrote, fragments of anger, sorrow, and clarity flowed out. Lena's betrayal, Daniel's laugh, the hopeless nights, the fear, the freedom, all of it spilled onto the page. Clara didn't speak, didn't interfere. She simply let me exist, let me purge the chaos that had been buried inside me. By the time I looked up, the sun had begun to lower, casting long shadows across the street. I stepped outside, notebook in hand, and sat on a worn bench. The breeze brushed my face. I felt the weight of my past still lingering, but now it was something I could hold in my hands, something I could shape. I whispered to myself, I'm not gone. I'm changing. One page at a time. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could begin again. That I walked down the narrow streets of the town, notebook tucked under my arm. The sun was higher now, warming my back, but the weight of my thoughts pressed down anyway. I whispered to myself, what am I really running from? A small bookstore caught my eye. The faded sign read Lane's Books and Curiosities. I stepped inside, bell jingling as I entered. Shelves of worn books smelled faintly of dust and adventure. Behind the counter stood a middle-aged man with graying hair and kind eyes. "Morning," he said. "Looking for anything special?" I shook my head. "Not really, just browsing, I guess." He studied me for a moment. "You look like someone who's carrying more than just curiosity." I laughed dryly. "Carrying more than I can handle, maybe. Or more than you're willing to face," he said, leaning on the counter. "Name's Marcus. You are?" "Ethan," I said. "Just passing through." Marcus nodded slowly. "Passing through, eh? Or trying to escape something?" I hesitated. "Maybe both." He chuckled softly. "I ask that a lot. People come in here thinking books can hide their problems. But books only help if you're ready to see yourself." I frowned. "I'm not sure I want to see myself right now." Marcus's eyes twinkled. The hardest part. Most people run from pain without realizing it. Are you running from pain, or running to something? The question struck me like a punch. I sank onto a chair nearby. I thought leaving would change everything. Leaving the city, leaving them. Lena, Daniel. I thought distance would heal me. "Distance helps," Marcus said, "but it can't erase the past. You can't rebuild without knowing what you're rebuilding from." I stared at a shelf filled with leather-bound journals. "I don't know where to start." "Start anywhere," Marcus said. "Write. Think. Feel. But don't lie to yourself." I pulled my notebook from my bag and flipped it open. Marcus watched quietly as I scrolled a few lines. They were messy, fragmented thoughts. Anger, heartbreak, confusion, but also tiny sparks of hope. "This feels good," I admitted, looking up at him. He smiled. "Good. That's progress. Every little step counts. One page, one thought, one decision at a time. That's how people become more than the mistakes they survived." I nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. I've spent so long trying to escape everything. Maybe it's time to face it instead. "Exactly," Marcus said. "Facing doesn't mean reliving. It means learning. Understanding. Growing." I walked to the counter. "Do you have a blank journal? Something to start fresh?" He handed me one with a knowing smile. "Here. A new start, or at least the attempt at one." I held it tightly. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank yourself for deciding to try. That's the real courage." I left the bookstore with the journal in my bag and a strange lightness in my chest. The town felt different now, quieter, softer, like it understood that I was beginning to build something from the ruins inside me. I whispered to myself, one step at a time. That's all it takes. And for the first time in weeks, I felt that small spark of hope flicker alive. I left the bookstore with the new journal tucked under my arm, the weight of it feeling heavier than it should. Not with books, but with possibility. I wandered through the town, streets quiet except for the occasional car. The sunlight bounced off windows, and I whispered to myself, I can't keep running. I have to actually live. A small park cafe caught my eye. Wooden tables scattered beneath a few trees, a soft hum of conversation around me. I sat down at a table near the corner, trying to act like I belonged anywhere. A woman at the next table glanced up from her sketchpad. She was young, hair tied back, pencil moving fast across the paper. Her eyes met mine. You look distracted, she said quietly. Thinking about something heavy? I blinked. You could say that, I muttered, staring at the journal on my lap. She tilted her head. Sometimes talking helps. Even to a stranger. She smiled faintly. I'm Jenna. Ethan, I replied. Not sure I want to talk yet. Then don't, she said. But you can, if you want. I won't pry. I shrugged. I don't even know where to start. Start anywhere, she said. Anywhere that hurts the most. I laughed bitterly. That's the problem. Too many things hurt. Then pick one, she suggested. Pick the one that keeps you awake at night. I stared down at the journal. I trusted someone I loved more than anything. And they betrayed me. I thought love was enough. Turns out, it never was. Jenna nodded slowly, pencil pausing mid-sketch. Pain teaches you. Not to punish you, but to remind you who you are. She studied me carefully. It's easy to think healing means forgetting. But forgetting doesn't fix you. Understanding does. I swallowed hard. Understanding, how do I do that when everything feels broken? You start small, she said. You notice your own choices, your own actions. You take responsibility for what you can control, and you let go of what you can't. That's the only way forward. Her words struck me harder than I expected. So I don't have to forgive them yet. I just have to face myself? Exactly, she said, smiling. Healing isn't about them. It's about you. I leaned back in my chair, journal open, pen ready. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt clarity cutting through the fog. I think I can do that, I whispered. Jenna glanced at my journal. Writing helps, she said. Even if the first words are messy. You start with what you feel, not what you think you should feel. I nodded slowly. I'll try. I have to, if I want to actually rebuild. Good, she said. The world isn't waiting for you to fix yourself, but you can choose to live honestly while you do it. I closed my eyes for a moment, inhaling the warm air. I've been running so long, thinking distance would help. But it hasn't. Not until now. Then start, she said. Step by step. Page by page. That's how you become someone new. I opened the journal and began to write, messy lines, broken thoughts, confessions, and questions. The pen moved faster than I expected. It was painful and freeing at the same time. When I looked up, Jenna was sketching again, pencil flying across the page. She glanced at me, eyes gentle. Keep going, she whispered. This is how you rebuild. I whispered to myself, page 1 of the new me. And for the first time, it felt real. Not perfect. Not fixed. But real. The morning was quiet, almost too quiet. I sat on a bench near the river, journal open on my lap, pen paused mid-thought. The words were still, hesitant. My mind kept drifting, memories I didn't want to relive, faces I wished I could erase. Lena laughing. Daniel smirking. The whisper of betrayal that haunted every step I took. I whispered, why does it still hurt like this? My phone buzzed. I glanced down. A message from Mason, you alive? Just checking in. I stared at it for a long moment. Alive. Yes. But not whole. Not yet. I typed back, I'm surviving. My thumb hovered over send. Then I added, this isn't easy. Almost instantly, his reply came, nothing worth rebuilding is easy. Don't forget that. I exhaled slowly. Mason always had a way of cutting through the fog. Yeah, I whispered to the wind. Easy never fixed anything. I looked around the park. Families, couples, joggers, life moving on while I tried to catch up to myself. My mind raced. Could I really face all the pieces of my old life without collapsing again? Could I confront the anger, the betrayal, the shame, and still find myself at the center of it? A thought rose unbidden. I can't keep running forever. I muttered it aloud, and it sounded strange, almost alien. I've left the city, the streets, the people, but the echoes follow me everywhere, I said quietly. Mason's next message buzzed in, echoes can guide you, Ethan. They remind you what not to repeat. I frowned. What if the echoes are too loud? I typed. What if they drown me instead? His reply was immediate. Then you fight louder. You don't run. That's how you reclaim yourself. I read the words again and again. Fight louder. Not run. The idea struck me with a sudden clarity. For the first time, the weight of the past didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a challenge. Something I could meet head on. I looked down at my journal, pages filled with messy writing, thoughts that had no order, confessions, fears, and tiny sparks of hope. I whispered, this is my armor. Each word, each line, a shield against the old me, against the pain I'd carried. A group of children ran past, laughing, their energy careless and bright. I smiled faintly. I can have that, I murmured. Joy without fear. Strength without hiding. Mason's voice echoed in my mind as much as on the screen. Fight louder. I repeated it aloud. I will. I have to. I typed back, thanks, Mason. I needed that. His reply came instantly, always, man. Keep pushing. You're closer than you think. I closed my eyes, feeling the wind on my face, the sunlight warming my shoulders. The river sparkled, flowing steadily, unstoppable. It reminded me of something important. Life doesn't wait for anyone to heal. But if I move forward, even slowly, I can choose the direction of my own current. I whispered to myself, one step, one page, one fight at a time. And for the first time, the echoes of my past didn't feel like chains. They felt like lessons, Reminders that the man I was, the man I lost, and the man I'm becoming can all exist together. I am not broken. I am not defeated. I am rebuilding. I picked up my pen and wrote the first clear sentence in hours: I will not be afraid anymore. The words felt like fire in my chest. And for the first time since Lena, I believed it. I sat on a bench near the edge of town, journal open, staring at the lines I had written over the past days. The words were messy, raw, but they held something stronger than I'd expected: clarity. I whispered, no more weakness. No more running. My phone buzzed. Mason again. You still alive, or are you plotting world domination? I smirked despite myself and typed back, plotting. Slowly. I laughed aloud at the reply, good. Slow is steady. Steady wins. I closed the phone and stood, the wind hitting my face. I knew talking alone wasn't enough. I needed action. I needed discipline. I couldn't let anger alone guide me. I needed power, focus, and control. I wandered down a quieter street, passing a small gym with punching bags visible through the window. Inside, a man was hitting a heavy bag, precise and controlled, sweat glistening. Something about his presence stopped me. He noticed me staring. His eyes were sharp, assessing, but not hostile. You looking for something? He called as I hesitated outside. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe discipline. Maybe direction. He wiped his hands on a towel and stepped closer. Name's Victor. And that's the first step right there, admitting you don't have it yet. I raised an eyebrow. You teach this? Victor laughed softly. Teach? No. Guide. The rest, you provide yourself. But I can show you the basics. Start small. Learn to push your limits. I swallowed hard. I'm ready to push. He studied me for a moment. Ready and willing are different. You willing to hurt, to sweat, to feel pain and keep going? I don't have a choice, I said quietly. I lost too much already. I can't afford to fail myself again. Victor nodded. Good. That fire's rare. Most people run before they ever try. You stayed. That's the start. I followed him inside. My body was tense, untrained, but I didn't care. What now? I asked. First, learn control, Victor said, guiding me to a punching bag. Every strike, every move, must come from intent, not emotion. Anger clouds judgment. Precision creates power. I swung, missing at first, hitting the bag wrong, stumbling slightly. I suck, I muttered. Victor chuckled. Good. That means you're human. Now fix it. Adjust. Keep going. Hours passed, my muscles burning, sweat soaking my shirt. Every strike, every drop of effort, felt like shedding the old me, the weak, betrayed me, and shaping someone stronger. I panted, chest heaving, and smiled faintly. I think I can do this. Victor clapped me on the shoulder. You can. But remember, power isn't just physical. Mental toughness, strategy, patience, those win every fight the body can't. I nodded, understanding. The journey wasn't over. It would never be easy. But the first spark of control, of purpose, ignited something inside me I hadn't felt in years. Back outside, the sun was lowering. I held my journal in one hand, bag slung over my shoulder. I whispered to myself, one step, one strike, one day at a time. I'll rise stronger. And when I do, they'll see who I've become. And for the first time, I believed it, not just as a thought, but as a promise to myself that I sat at a small table in my apartment, journal open, pen poised. The words I'd written over the past weeks were messy, raw, but they held something stronger now: focus. I whispered, no more wondering. Time to build. Time to plan. My phone buzzed. Mason again. You plotting your next move yet, or still lifting heavy bags? I smirked and typed back, both. Slowly, but steadily. Almost immediately, he replied, good. Slow wins. Patience builds power. Don't skip steps. I leaned back, thinking. Patience. Planning. Strategy. I realized that being strong physically wasn't enough. I needed control over every aspect of my life. I needed to anticipate, to learn, to prepare, and then act. I flipped through my journal. Pages filled with training notes, reflections on the past, small insights from Ava, Jenna, and Victor. I murmured aloud, they taught me lessons. Now it's my turn to take what I've learned and make it count. I started making a list. Step 1, regain confidence, both mentally and physically. Step 2, expand skills, learn, practice, refine. Step 3, reclaim influence, quietly, strategically, so that no one can underestimate me again. And step 4, eventually, face the people who thought they could destroy me. I muttered to myself, it's not about revenge yet. Not now. It's about building myself into someone untouchable. The phone buzzed again. Mason. Don't rush the last step. Build the foundation first. Every empire crumbles without one. I typed back quickly. I know. That's why I'm taking my time. But every day counts. I won't waste a single one. I leaned back, letting the words sink in. The apartment felt smaller than it used to, but instead of suffocating me, it felt like a canvas. A space where I could map out every detail, track progress, and record thoughts. Each page, a step closer to who I wanted to become. I whispered aloud, no shortcuts. Every moment, every effort, every choice, deliberate. I practiced scenarios in my mind. How I would act when confronted by Lena. How I would respond if Daniel tried to play the same games. The anger that had once crippled me now felt like fuel. But this time, I wouldn't act recklessly. I would act deliberately. With precision. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, casting shadows across the floor. I crossed out one line in my journal and added a new one: focus. Build. Control. Patience. Power. I repeated the words aloud. Each one felt like a command to myself, a promise I had to keep. I pulled out my phone and called Mason. I'm ready to start tracking progress, I said. Mentally, physically, everything. I want accountability. He laughed softly. Good. That's exactly what you need. And remember, every small victory builds the next. Don't underestimate the power of daily discipline. I won't, I said, gripping the journal tight. This is the first day of the rest of my life. And I'm not leaving anything to chance. Mason's voice softened. Then go. Build. Become what you're meant to be. I hung up and stared at my journal, heart steady, mind focused. I am not the same man who was betrayed, I whispered. And when the time comes, they'll see exactly what I've become. For the first time, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a force quietly gathering strength. And soon, I would strike, not recklessly, not blindly, but with precision. The plan had begun. I walked the streets of the city at night, unseen, unnoticed, but every step felt different now. I wasn't the man who had cried over betrayal. I wasn't the one who had trembled when they laughed at me. I was sharper, stronger, deliberate. Every movement, every breath, a measure of control. I watched from a distance as Lena and Daniel sat at their usual cafe, laughing, careless. They didn't see me. And that was perfect. I whispered to myself, they have no idea who I've become. My phone buzzed. Mason. You ready? You've trained, you've planned, now it's about execution. Patience is your ally, precision is your weapon. I typed back, I'm ready. They'll see me, but not yet. I want them to feel the weight of underestimation first. I leaned against a lamppost, letting the night cover me. Memories surged, Lena's cold words, Daniel's smirk, the laughter that had once cut deeper than any blade. I clenched my fists. You thought I was weak, I whispered. You thought I'd stay down. You were wrong. A waiter passed by, brushing against me. I didn't flinch. I had learned to control every impulse. Every glance I cast was calculated. Every reaction measured. I was becoming the version of myself who wouldn't be broken again. I watched Lena sip her coffee, Daniel leaning back with that same arrogance. They had no idea I had spent weeks building power, sharpening my mind, training my body. The man they had underestimated was gone. In his place stood someone who wouldn't be fooled, wouldn't be played. My phone buzzed again. Mason's voice, patience. Wait for the moment they slip. They always do. I nodded, speaking aloud to the empty street. They always do. I thought back to every lesson, Ava's insistence on facing myself, Jenna's reminder to own my choices, Victor's guidance on discipline, Marcus's wisdom on building strategy. Every fragment of advice, every challenge, had led me here. I was prepared. Not just physically. Mentally. Emotionally. I felt it pulsing inside me, a calm, lethal certainty. I moved closer to the cafe, careful, observing. Lena laughed at a joke Daniel made. I studied them both, noting the arrogance, the overconfidence, the careless habits. Every smile, every gesture, every assumption they made was a crack in the armor they thought protected them. And I would exploit it. Slowly. Deliberately. Perfectly. I whispered to myself, they'll never see it coming. Not until it's too late. The lights of the cafe reflected in the puddles on the street. I let my eyes linger on Lena's face, the woman who had once held my heart, who had betrayed it without hesitation. Daniel, her accomplice, the man who had pretended to be my friend, thinking he could outsmart me. I had been blind once. Never again. I slid my journal from my bag, flipping to the page labeled Plan. Every detail I had written was precise, actionable. My pen traced the lines one last time, solidifying the steps I would take. Today wasn't the final act, it was the setup. The calm before the storm. I stepped back into the shadows, feeling the power coiling inside me. I am not the man you left behind, I whispered. I am stronger. I am smarter. And when the time comes, you will regret every moment you thought you could break me. The night air bit at my face, but I didn't flinch. I didn't waver. I had become the storm they would never see coming. And in the darkness, I smiled. The game was about to begin.